Good afternoon. The first question was looking at the dispositions, what four words would you like your colleagues to describe you? So, on my first word, I would say my colleagues would describe me as being creative. I feel this word fits me because I'm always looking for ways to design learning experiences that go beyond the textbook. For example, I'm always creating gallery walks, station activities, and hands on projects that let students move, interact, and think critically about social studies content and standards. I know that not every student learns the same way, so I try to come up with engaging tasks for all students, whether it's giving them visuals or sentence starters or a rubric to go by or different assignments that will connect them to the content. I want to keep them engaged because that's very important in middle school. I try to design different formative assessments in ways to check for their understanding, but also has some sort of interest into what they're into. So I do a lot of creating a lot of the ticket out the doors, creative projects or activities that require collaboration. So for me, being creative is about taking the standards and that we're responsible for and thinking outside the box so students can experience them in different ways. So I would say the first word would be creative. The second word is hardworking. I think every day brings so many demands for teachers. You have lesson planning, grading, you have student support, you have parent communication. So I think you have to be truly a hard worker. And so I know that my colleagues know that I'm a hard worker. I think being hardworking is essential in education because there's so many things to do other than what you don't have the hours in the school day to do it all. So sometimes you have to take your work home. So I just think they would describe me as hardworking. For example, when preparing for a summative assessment, I spend time after school creating differentiated study guides for my students, assessments so that both your general education students and your students that struggle have what they need to succeed. Even when I'm tired, I know that extra effort matters because it directly supports students' confidence and achievement. Among colleagues, I've stayed late to help them set up gallery walks or shared resources for an upcoming observation. So all of this takes time and energy. So I would think that colleagues would say that they would describe me as hardworking, and I think you have to have that because hard working is what keeps a classroom and a school moving forward. So the word would be hardworking. The next word that would describe me is positive. Positivity matters in a school setting because it influences the culture of the classroom and the team environment. I think you have to be a positive teacher in middle school. You cannot show negativity because the students need to be around a positive role model. So I think my colleagues would say that I am positive. Positivity is not just an attitude, it is a practice of encouragement, resilience, and hope that spreads outward to your class and your colleagues. So I definitely think that they would describe me as positive. Positivity also encourages collaboration if you're positive about that, reduces your stress, and reminds everyone that our work has a purpose and an impact on children's or on students' lives. So I would definitely choose the word, or I would think my colleagues would choose that I'm a positive teacher. All right, the last word I would say is I am reliable, reliability. And it is important in teaching because students and colleagues need to know that they can count on you. A reliable teacher provides consistency, stability, and follow through, which builds trust in the classroom and among coworkers. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So my students know that if I make a promise, whether it's to reteach a concept, provide feedback, or celebrate their progress with candy, I will follow through. So, for example, if I tell my students I'll have their projects graded by Friday, I make sure it's done. So, even if that means staying late or working at home, they know my word matters. And with colleagues, the same way. If I need to stay late to help them get something ready, I will. So I know I've heard colleagues say this before. We know if you say you'll do something or you'll handle it, you will get it done. So I think reliability is at the core of teaching. So I'm definitely reliable, and I think my colleagues would say reliable. All right. The next question is, what metaphor would describe you? And I've been asked this before, and my when I was doing my master's, what metaphor would describe you? And I thought, well, Georgia history, being a social studies teacher, I feel like I'm a tour guide. So I just think it's just the word feels right. Georgia's history will capture students' attention, challenge them, and spark their curiosity. So I think a guide doesn't just point out the landmarks and move on. They bring it to life with stories, connections, and meaning. So that's what I try to do in my classroom. I don't want students just to memorize dates or facts. I want them to feel like they're on a journey through Georgia's story, and that they have a place in it. So I sometimes I use visuals, and now this year I'm doing a timeline. So as we study new events, we add them to our timeline together, so students can literally see how each moment fits into the bigger picture of Georgia's history. Another reason I like this metaphor is because just like tour guides, you have to know your group. Some people want to take pictures while they're on a guide. Some want to listen to stories. Some want to read more about the details. So that's exactly how I see differentiation in my classroom. I give my students options so that they can show what they've learned in different ways. So, for example, one student might create a political cartoon, another might build a slideshow, others might participate in a gallery walk. Everyone's still learning the same content, but the journey looks a little different for each person. And just like tourists travel at different paces, my students, they learn at different speeds. So that's why I provide supports like visuals, sentence starters, different assignments to make sure no one gets left behind. So I would say the metaphor that would describe me would be tour guide. All right, the third question is, why is it important to develop or enhance or strengthen your own metacognitive thinking skills as it relates to the school environment with your colleagues, with other adults? But why is it so important to develop those metacognitive skills for yourself as a teacher leader? I think developing and enhancing or strengthening metacognitive skills is important when you're working with colleagues, because it allows us to be intentional and reflective about our interactions that we're having on a daily or every day. Metacognition helps us think about how we're approaching collaboration, whether we are listening actively. That's very important to listen to your other colleagues, asking the right questions, or adapting our communication to meet others where they are. When in our school, we adapt our communication we have to meet others where they are. So therefore, like collaborating with my co-teacher on a lesson that didn't go as planned, I might stop and reflect on my own role before pointing out what went wrong. I might ask myself, did I explain the directions clearly? Did I allow enough time for student processing? By thinking through my own actions first, I can approach the conversation with solutions like adjusting the pacing, or rather than placing blame on anybody. This reflective approach keeps the dialogue constructive and focused on improving instruction for our students. So for me as a teacher, developing metacognitive skills is very critical. Teaching requires constant decision making about how pacing, how you're going to pace the content, the standards, differentiation, relationships, and instructional strategies. If I'm not aware of my own thought processes, I might not do so well for my coworkers or my students. So this just allows me to reflect and adjust something if something is not working or not right. It might make me think about why did I choose this strategy, or did it accomplish what I wanted my students to know. So therefore, also this year, I'm having my kids do more self-assessing their self, especially before a summative assessment. A couple of days before, I let them self-assess their on the standards. I break it down in I can statements and let them acknowledge the standard and see if they know it. And then it helps me to reteach the day before the summative assessment what I need to reteach the students. So the next question is, which generation are you in? What strengths do the other two generations possess? What can they bring to the table based on this research as found in our text? So I am a Gen X, and I think the baby boomers, they have a lot of experience and stability into your school. One of the greatest strengths of them, I think, is they're dedicated teachers. They've spent years in the classroom showing commitment to students, the school, and often the community too. So I think they're strong team members. They know what's going to work and what might not work. I think they understand the importance of collaboration. I think I also think that they are the mentors. These teachers have seen, like I said, what works and what's not worked, and how teaching has changed over time. So I think they can bring a lot of insights to your newer teachers. They've lived the experiences, and I think they can build new teachers' confidence up. So I just think they have a lot of wisdom, and they know the history of the school. So I think they bring a lot to new teachers, and so I definitely think baby boomers will helps your school succeed. The next generation is the millennials, and I think of them as knowing what's going on more in the world, especially being growing up in technology era. They know a lot more about technology. Even my co-teacher, she's way younger than me. She knows a lot about technology. She knows different things to use, how to different interaction, like games that students can play. She knows a lot more than I do about that. And then they just have that. Also, they respect, or they're connected to diverse perspectives. I think they encourage students and colleagues to think beyond their environment. So I think they value cultural diversity. So I think that's a key strength with millennials. Another key strength, I think they're multitasking. They've grown up, like I said, with technology, so they know that they can balance like grading, lesson planning, parent communication, and professional development. So I think that is especially valuable in education, where the demands are constant and very unpredictable. So being able to juggle a lot of tasks at once without losing sign of priorities allows them to remain dependable leaders who gets things done. So I definitely think that they are great for a school environment too, that they bring a lot to the table. All right, thank you. Have a great day.